So hi everybody and welcome back to the C++ tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 158 and in this video we continue to talk about classes. So here you can see again we have our class definition, and in this video I want to talk about functions. And before I can talk about functions, of course, let's create again a class to repeat and learn it to use. So first of all, what is a class? Again, it's just a construction script. You can define and declare rules in it, but important, you can't use a class. That's very important, but we want not use a class right now. We want just define it. But before we define it, let's make a little bit more realistic example. What I mean with a realistic example is, for example, we want simulate an object in our world. And let's say there is an electrician, and this electrician say, I want simulate a lamp. And our job as a programmer is now to write a simulation in the PC of a lamp. So how we simulate a lamp, for example. And one way, and very easy way, is just create a class lamp. Like I said, a class is a simulation of objects in our world, and he is also presenting us exactly the object which we want simulate in the world. It's the lamp. So let's create a class lamp. But like I said, the class means only we are defining the properties and the functionalities, which means in our case as a programmer, we defining variables, which will be the properties, and functions, which will be the functionality of the lamp, which, for example, turn on the lamp will be a functionality, turn off the lamp will be a functionality. A variable, a property would be the lamp name, the lamp is very bright or something like that. Sorry. So let's simulate now an object for a lamp. So first of all, we start with class. We have to set up the rules and the declarations and all this kinds. Important, we can't use a class, but we can create it, construct it at least. All right, class is our keyword start word here. All this kind of thing. Then I have to find, of course, a good name, which is in this case very simple. It is a lamp because, sorry, the electricians asked us for a lamp and we make a class lamp. Very nice. And then I define the body, and important here, and is a semicolon. Don't forget this one. And then this one here, I can here skip. I can skip. We will talk about this later. And we are here at the member specification, which is here, which I have now to define here. And we learned as a beginner, you should write protected. Oops, not so public. Public. If I write it right, public, protected, and private here, just to learn a little bit more. So, and now there is one more thing what I have to tell you before we write now the values in it on the functions, because in this case I won't talk about functions, but you will see when I use, for example, functions and variables in one place here, it will become not, let's say, not very nice to read. So a style problem. And there are different kind of styles, and one way is just to say, okay, I make a section for variables, like we did in our other in main. When we start learning programming, we can make the same thing here. We can define variables on top and functions as well on top, but not at the same place. What I mean with that is we make here a variable section, so, and just make another function section, and now they are not at the same place. They are more or less at the same place, but they are at least a little bit separated. So that's easier for us to read, and then we have it very easy. So, and as you can see, I can declare here again all that what I have here, and That's not very important here. What I mean with that is you can declare all time this like you want. I could go on and create again here up protected. Oops, if I can write it right, protected, and then I can go here and write again a public for fun and so on. So this one you can do all time. And that's why I use, because we are allowed to do so, I use this technique just to distinguish about function section, where I put all my function in it, and then my variable section, where I put all my variables in it. And the advantage about this one is when you scroll up on top, you can see, okay, this section has all your variables, you are just concentrating for variables, and this section has your functions. Makes it easier to read instead of if they are all time together in one section. So this kind of stuff we are putting only here to learn, of course. Later you will not see this kind of access specifiers, only if they use it for public, especially in class, because by default it's all private. They will probably not write private because it's by default private, so this specifier will not see in classes. But public you will see much because they have to write public or protected, depends later, to get access. So that said, let's continue. And we are simulating our lamp. The electrician wants some variables. He say we should give this lamp a name. So because he want to test different kind of lamps. So let's make a variable lamp name, which is just a string for us. String lamp name, and we can give a default value, which is for example, this one is not very important because this one will be replaced anyway. We give all time a default value, so this variable has something initialized, and that's all time a good practice. I call this just for fun little lamp. And here we give one more variable. The electrician said as, okay, he need a voltage. He wants set the voltage so he can test different kind of voltage, one high and one low and something. Okay, I have no clue what a voltage is, so I write here voltage. Let's make a double because it's probably not not a full number. Voltage, something like that. And let's give it a default value of 5.5. That's cool. So now we have here two variables, and now I go here to the functions, and then he said he won't turn on the lamp, and he said he won't turn off the lamp, and he want to, perhaps he wants set also the voltage. Okay, let's go and make this all public. Public means we have access it later. And if we want, yeah, let's make this. First of all, let's create a function for turn on and turn off. Let's call this void lamp turn on. And you can see the function which we are declaring are exactly the same thing what we learned so far. Like we did it in main, we can't do it, of course, outside in main in the global namespace, right? All right, so that's very easy. Because we have no specification how a lamp works, that's why we say just std cout lamp is now turned on. Because normally you would, of course, go deeper here and find all the circuits and then try to simulate it more accurately. But in our case, yeah, that's enough. We want to learn the class and we want not create a lamp object right now. Right now we want to learn just the class. And let's do this with turn off as well. You can see, but I show you how you can just simulate a little bit this one, and off. And now I turn the lamp off, and let's make one more setting. And this last setting I want to put in private, and the last one is, for example, Now this one I don't want put in private. I want to put this, let's keep this one. Let's keep this one, and then I can add something new. So for, like you can see, we have now just constructed a class, and like I said, class, we can't use a class, we can just construct it. And this kind of class is simulating a lamp, and you see my class is not simulating very nice because I have only these two functions and these two variables, and this is not accurate to a real lamp, right? No, at least not, but in our case not so important. And the important thing is this class can't work on its own because it's just a construction script, which means if I want to use it, I can't use the class, but I can create a variable with the class, which is then the type of the class, and then I can use it, and we call this object, I call it variable, because variables are all time, my friend. In C++, variables are all time the information transporter. That's why I call it's more important, but of course you can call them objects as well if you want. So anyway, let's make this class useful, because now I want to use this class. Now I have just defined the class. Now the electrician comes and say, okay, how, and he asks you how I can use this lamp what you created here. You say, okay, you have just to create, you take the lamp which I created for you, this is the class here, and then you create your own object, or in our case as a starter, just a variable name. And this variable name, like old time, must be very descriptive, and that's why I call it electrician test lamp, something like that. This is for this electrician test lamp. He wants testing lamps, because he wants to do something like that. All right, and you can see this one here is just a normal variable declaration, what we all time did. Important here, this one is a variable declaration. So this is with other words also just a class declaration. Because think about it, it's similar like this one here. String, for example, my name. And you can see here, this one and this one are actually same things. The only difference is this one is in the namespace std, which we learned. This is a namespace, and this one is not in a namespace. Of course, I can put this one in a namespace as well. And we learned a trick how we can put this one in a namespace. Right click, you go here to the snippet, surround with, and then you have here objects, perhaps with the namespace here, I'm not sure. Here is a namespace, but I'm not doing this one. And then you have put this lamp in a namespace as well, and then you call this namespace, and then I can call this one here as well. Oh wait, let me show you that this one is possible so that you can see it, but I will not use it. Let's make it fast. Let's go here. I hope you know this trick as well. We have learned this in our repetition, and here you have just defined a namespace. And let name, for example, I call this electrician namespace. And now you can see I have here no access, of course, because now it's in the namespace electrician, which I have to copy. And here I have to paste in, and of course my colon, and now you can see I have access, and this two looks now very, very similar, right? This one is the namespace std, this is the standard namespace, and this one is in my namespace, in my electrician namespace. And yeah, so don't be irritated by this looks. This string here is actually just a class, but it was provided by other programmers, and this lamp here we have created here in our own. That's nice. That's very nice and fine. I hope you see this one. And now remember that what I said in the last video, your job as a as a programmer will be in future, when we finished with classes, all time to analyze these classes which you don't know. What I mean with analyze is you go to this type, in this case is the lamp, or in this case string, and let's go first to my lamp, then right click on it, and then it says here go to definition, because we have to check how this lamp is defined. Defined means this kind of stuff, all this class set up here, which what I talked, careful, not the namespace. The namespace is something else. I talk about just this class. And what you do is right click. First you go to the type, in our case my lamp, it's the class. Then you go to right click, go to definition. It jumps normally to the class here. And then you as a programmer have to read a little bit through this one to understand how they simulate this object, how they created this object. In my case, you see it's very simple, just two variables, just two functions. That's a good news, and the bad news is in general these classes have more than 100, or even some classes have around till 1,000 variables and functions, and you count them all together, so it's not easy. Anyway, that's life. You still have to analyze them, and in future you will have also analyzed, for example, this std stands for standard library, and this namespace standard library and this class here string is just one, and there are different classes, and they are called standard because they are most time used. Probably you will have to analyze all these classes, not all, let's say some of these classes which are in the standard library. And analyzing means, like I said, you go here, right click it, and then go to definition, and then you see something like that. Okay, this one here is not the direct access. You can see we have to learn a little bit more, and here is also not the right place. Actually, they are just using here. Now you have probably dive here a little bit more into it, because this one is just another place, but you will see you can dive into the right place. This one is something not the right place. This template, we have not talked about templates and all this kind of stuff, and this using we have also not talked, and this kind of stuff we have to learn a little bit more before that. But keep in mind, when you analyze a class means just right click and here. That's your job. And you can see in our case, very simple. We start very low, and later, yeah, that will one of your primary things to learn too, because working with libraries means just analyzing them and understanding them. All right, so much talk. Let's continue. I created now here my variable like all time. Here my name. But careful, what is that again? A declaration. Why is this a declaration? Here, I have nothing assigned to it, right? But careful, what I said with this my name, even we have not assigned anything for this string, the compiler will assign anything to it, because nothing works not. And the same goes here for this one too. But in these classes, it's a little bit special, because if you are declaring it like this one, the compiler will call so-called the default constructor. About constructors we will talk in the next video, because it's a very, very important topic. And here the default constructor is called 2 and so on. But that means this one is called a declaration, which calls still a default constructor. And yeah, let's continue. So I have now created this variable. I can use it, and like I said, class I can't use. Here I can do nothing with this class here. But now I created this variable, I can use now all this variables in this class, and that's not true. I said I can use all the variables in that class. Is that true or not? I write that. I said no, it's not true. Why it's not true? Because again, we have here this access specifier. Access specifier means you can only use the public one, and later depends on the variable type, the protected one, but the private ones, you will not use them. And let me show what I mean with that. Let's make here a private variable std string, let's call this one std. Can you use me? Can you use me? I don't think so. I don't think, oops, think so. All right. So let's see if I can. So what I said when I create here a variable, I said now I have access to this class, right? But only for public, and later we will learn protected. And let's see if this is true or not. So first of all, I need my variable name, because you can see we don't care about this type class. We care only about our variable names, which is our object. You can call it, I call it variable. And now don't forget we have this access specifier for member specifier. Careful, it is called not access specifier, it is called member access specifier or something like that. We will talk about this one anyway a little bit more in detail in the CPP reference, and then see what is real called. Anyway, it is a member access specifier. And now when I dot it here, and you can see here it pops up this little menu, and this little menu shows us all the things which we have defined in the class. And you can see I have defined here a variable, then two functions, and here another variable, and these are exactly the things what I defined. And important is, I hope you can see it, this variable private is not there. All right, it is not there. So this one gives only access here, and it shows what is public available. And that's also very important when you analyze for example, a class. Not that you think you can just create a variable name and make a dot and all the function and variables will be provided here. These are only the public available functions and variables which are created here in this class and made public. Important. Here they are just defined here in this public access specifier, and all other things, for example private, are not accessible. And most time, and very important now here, most time this kind of stuff what are made private, you don't care most time. And why not? Why don't you care about this private members? Because they made it private so that you don't access it outside. So you should not access it from here where I want access it. Like I should not now, when I make this private, I should not now access it here to print out at this point. This is so the meaning of private. You should not access it. Only the class itself can work with this one. For example, later we will learn that we can have nested classes and all kind of stuff what we learned. And the class itself can use it here to provide functionality and kind of stuff like that. But you, when you create this variable and you get access to this class, you are not allowed to access this private variable. But here comes a new thing, and you will see this also. There are ways to still get access to this private. There are different ways actually, but one way and simple way is just to make a getter and setter. Perhaps you heard it about this. If not, no problem. Getter and setter means you make a public function. You put it here, for example, in this public section, a function which is returning a private variable. Here, this one. And this is allowed. And then you say, why is this allowed? Because the function, if you make here a function public, which is returning a private variable, you have access to this function here, but not to this private variable. And that's why this kind of functions are special called getter and setter. And what they mean with getter and setter is you can get private or protected, depends, members with this way. Let's make this possible. But before we make this possible, let us use our electrician. He want to turn on his lamp. How we call a function? We have created here a function, but I showed you till now only we can use this dot, and here is the function. And what I have to do next here, let's say I want turn off, you can select this one. So what is the next thing what I have to do here? And the nice thing is exactly that what we learned with functions so far. So you have nothing to learn new. This one here after the dot is similar that what we did all time with functions so far. So what you really learn is only that you create here this variable, that you make this dot, which is our member access, and then this dot will show if it's public, and then you have to check this, and then this function just normal call. Here I call now turn on, and because it's public I can do, so you can see here is no error. And now the electrician turned on his lamp and he's happy. And let's see what happens. Yes, what's this here? Lamp is now turned on. Good. But let's go on, and I show you now this problem with the private. And I said there are some called getter and setter. Getter and setter, like I said, there are some private members you still want to get access. And this is possible with a so-called special functions. The special functions are called getter and setter, and the special functions are not void functions because you want return this value, for example, because this private variable is private, and I want that the function returns exactly this value. So how I make this? First of all, you have to select what variable you want. I use perhaps you say I want this one here. This one is private, but I want that I can access it here outside as well. And okay, with other words, my goal is to print out this text here, or let's say not to text, wrong. Let's say to set this text would be a setter normally. Then we make a setter as well. First of all, I want get this one and print it out, the default value, and then I want set a new value. So we make a getter and a setter. So first of all, again, what is my goal? My goal is to get access to this private variable. What I have to do, I have to select the variable which I want. This one I want. Okay, what I have to do, then I have to create a special variable function which will return this variable or set this variable. In our case, first is getting. We want just get it, so we can print out what this variable has stored. All right, let's do this. So I have described what I want, and now I have to execute this. So this value has a type of string. Return value is string. All right. Then my function name, you should name it very precise, and important here is this getter and setter, they have normally, there is a convention, but everybody is still using their own convention. And that's why I use my convention too, which is not important. Important is they called most times setter, getter, or set or get all time. This kind of something. If you read getter, setter, or the set and get, then you should think they are trying to access private or protected variables which are normally not accessible. So, and then we have to indicate that we want to access something like this private, and that's why I call it getter. And in my case, getter underscore, I don't know if I can make underscore here, but let's see, getter, and let's call it exactly that what you want. The name is can you use me? Okay, you will see I can use you. And here is it, of course, not here. So, can you use me? This is my getter. Can you use me? Of course, it's a function, just normal. Here's my function definition, just normal. And now, important, you have to return here. This return value is exactly this one here. Can you use me? Because you use me. And that's very important here. You can see outside I have no access to this variable, can you use me? Inside the class, I can call it. I can use it. So within this class, there is no problem, because private means just as long you are in my class body here. So here, this body, this curly brace is open. You can use every private class, variable, function, whatever is defined, you can use it. But if you are creating an object outside of my body, you can't use it. So I can use it here. And now this special class here, getter, I have. Can you use me is just the indication which variable I want, which is not public available. And we saw this, right? Let me copy this one here first. And let me paste this, and let me delete this, and here's the dot, and here you can see now here's another function available, and of course here's also a tooltip, and try to learn also this tooltip as well. You can see here the first thing is the access specifier, it's public. std string we already learned. Std means standard library, : means I search it in the standard library, and what I'm searching is the string, right? And then we have here electrician. Of course, this is a little bit hard to tell because you don't know. Normally when you see electrician, lamp, and you don't know when you watch this like that instantly if this is a namespace or is this a class, because electrician could be here also another class, and that was just a nested class. We will talk about nested classes as well. So this one could be a little bit a problem, and then you have to research this. The research means diving into this lamp and find where it is defined and this kind of stuff. And you can see in our case this first one is a namespace. : means then this lamp here will be searched in this namespace electrician, and you can see here this getter is also here with : which means this getter, can you use me, this function will be searched in lamp will be searched in electrician, which is of type std string, and it is public. So try to learn this kind of line as well, because that will become a little bit more and more complicated. So it's good that you'll understand these simple lines here. And important is now this function was public, and now you can see I have this return type here, which is a private, and this private is now from outside available, because I can call this public function here. It's my public function, like I call this function all the time. But important is here, this electrician has now a return type, because here I'm returning it this std string, which means my return type here of this old thing is also a string. How I can see that that this one is now, let's say, so it has a return type string, and now you can put it out. For example, when I print it out, std see out like all time, we print it out like I can see what we expect now. Let's see. We just print out and see what we expect now. And here you can see lamp is turned on. Of course, I have no new line. I don't think so. And oops. Okay, sorry. And now you can see this I don't think so is not true. I have access to it. And this one was this getter. Getter means I get you even if you are private. And let's make one more, because of course you cannot only get private member in this way, you can set even a private member, and you can see this private member here is set to a default value, and I will change it. Yes, I think so. I can get you or something like that. So what we can do is, of course, we write again something like a special function, but this one, it is called a setter, because I setter, let's call it setter, and This kind of functions are special because they are trying to access private members. All time think about this, and very important, sometimes they are just called set and then anything and get anything, and then this anything here is most time specialized here in the private section. So, and what I have to do here is I want set it. Set means just yeah, I have to provide parameters, because now to set something I have to provide values, and this one is again what it is, a string, and string means I have to provide a string parameter. Let's write here std, oops, not this there, std string, and let's call it, for example, can you use me param. For example, this is the parameter which I provide, and this parameter should now of course set this one. And actually to set this one we don't need a return type. We can write here void, because I don't need, I'm just setting it. And what I need instead is just assigning a value to this one here, because again I have access now, I'm in the class, right? I have now access to this one, and which means I can now I don't think so, I think so, and yes, I think so, I think so that I can get you with a getter, get you with a getter, make it so. Okay, oops, of course I should make this one. And now we have a setter, and the next thing what I do is I copy this one again, but this time I call here the setter. Let's see, setter, can you use me? The same thing, and of course I have here, okay, the problem is not a real problem. I don't need this, because I provided here a setter for this one. That was a problem. I should not make this so. I should make this way, because I wrote yes, I wrote here a string which is not really the thing what I wanted. Normally I should use this parameter, right? So because this is the user defined set thing, it makes no sense not to use it. So here's the param. Now it makes more sense. So this parameter will be assigned to this can you use me, and normally I should write it here what I wrote there. It was not a good thing. Oh, okay, then I make it here short, and I provide here now this name. Yes, I can get you. I can get you with a getter. So I can get you with a getter. All right. So let's see what we have here. We have here already an arrow. That's cool. And then let's read what's the problem here. And you can see here it says no operator matches those operations. All right. The problem what you can see here is this one is just a setter, and a setter means we have no return value. A return value we need because we want here a string, and this one here should print out a string. So how can I make this? And very simple actually. Instead of printing this one out here, what you have to do is just set it here, so. And then now you set it, because this one should just set it, and then you print this line here again out. But I should make a new line there. That would be nice, but not now. And then you can just print it out here again, because this one here, like I said, is just for setting it, not printing out. And then To print it out, I need here something like a string. All right, let's see if I have now a arrow, and you can see what I have. Of course, I have here no new line, but it says here, yes, I can get you with a getter, which means I have changed here also the value. So I think I talked much in this video again, but you can see we learned functions are very important and easy because it's exactly use what we have so far. We learned only some differences, which means has much to do with this access specifier. That's very important because they are deciding if you can see it or not. And also important is the special functions, these two kinds, they are called getter and setter because they can get an access, even change this private member, which you normally not want change from outside. This private means all time this class is using them for its private functionalities, so setups and declarations. That's why you would declare them private. If you want to access them outside of the function, outside of the class, then you would set them anyway public. Then you would not set them private. Then you set them public or public function, and that's it. Then you don't need something like this getter and setter. And this getter and setter has special meanings. We will talk about them more. But right now you learned just how to use functions. Very simple. And like I said, very, very important from now on. Like you can see here, what we are doing here with our class creation here is just simple a type like this std string which we learned. It's just a std namespace : I search the string class here in the namespace. This : is searching in the standard library namespace. And here we created our class, which is the lamp, which is a type now. And then this lamp will be searched in this electrician, and we have to check what this electrician is. And that's the problem here in general. What I mean, the problem is later you will have here very, very many colons here, and sometimes you don't know is this a namespace, is this a class, and is this whatever. You have to really go and dive into, which means you go to definitions and check how they are defined and where they are defined, not only how, sondern where. For example, if I go here to definition, it jumps here, but of course I'm interested in this one as well. If this one was a other class, because this one could be also another class, could be a nested class. We learned nesting classes as well. Okay, I think that was not too complicated, I hope. Important here, like I said, this function use cases, just normal. Important here. All things after this access specifier is almost the same what we learned with functions so far. So there is no worry. The only different thing is here perhaps this getter and setter, a little bit new special functions for the special accessing, but they are normally not too much used. There should be not too much use because then you would make it anyway public, but they are, yeah, still much used. That's why we learn it. So with that said, I stop in this video, but in the next video I want to talk about constructors. And important thing is here, constructors are actually also only functions, but they are very, 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 very special. And that needs a little bit more talk. All right, with that said, if you have any questions, any complaints like all time, write them in the comments, and see you in the next video. And don't give up. It will become a little bit more complicated, but if after we learned classes, we will be really good in programming, and it will make it will become easy as well. First it becomes a little bit complicated till you all get it, but afterwards it becomes super easy, because after when you trained it and exercised it, then you will just say so easy. All right, bye, good luck, don't give up.